So, if you want to grant a power of attorney, that can be done in several different ways. Either we can do it here in Spain, in front of a notary in Spain, or it can be done back in your own country once you've gone home.
That's right. Personally, we recommend, if it is possible, for the client to sign the power of attorney here in Spain.
Because it's cheaper, quicker.
It is cheaper, quicker, it's less, it takes less time as well, because all you have to do is, first of all, talk to your lawyer. Explain what power of attorney you want to grant, either if you want to grant it to the lawyers or if you want to grant it to someone else. The lawyer will help you draw up the power of attorney. They will send the draft to the notary's office with all the details of the person who is granting the power of attorney and the person who is appointed as attorney, which that doesn't mean that this person has to be an attorney. So the notary will complete the power of attorney, the document, then you have to go to the notary public to sign it.
Yes.
If you're granting power of attorney to your lawyers, or if you're granting power of attorney to someone else, okay? You have to go, as we said, prove who you are, and it's all done within 24 hours.
I was going to say, this is a simple process. When you describe these things, it can sometimes sound a little complicated.
No, it is not.
Basically, it's simple. Your lawyer phones the notary and says, hey, I've got this client here, wants to grant a power of attorney to sell a house.
That's right.
This is what we need to say.
That's right.
And then they'll fix an appointment for you to go to the notary, usually with an interpreter.
Exactly.
And the notary will witness your signature of the document. So this is no big deal.
It's not a big deal, and it's done in one day, as we said. It's quite simple and less costly than if you were to do it in the UK, because...
And if you can't do it whilst you're here in Spain, then, again, no problem. You can sign one back home, and we'll talk about how you do that in a moment.
Okay.
Now, what happens if two people want to grant power of attorney? If you and your wife are buying a house, do you grant one power of attorney, both of you signing it, or do you grant two separate powers of attorney?
There is no problem for two people to sign the same power of attorney, as long as there is no conflict of interest involved. Let's say, for example, that for someone who is selling a property, someone who is buying a property, if they want to grant power of attorney to the lawyers, they cannot grant the same power of attorney to the same lawyer.
Yes.
Because that would be a conflict of interest. Each of them will have to sign a separate power of attorney.
In terms of the Spanish power of attorney, as we've said, the process is pretty simple. Roughly, what does it cost?
I would say between 70 and 80 euros. Some powers of attorney are wider and includes more clauses, more powers, so therefore it will be a little bit more expensive. But between 70 and 80 is the approximate cost.
Now, you've talked about powers being wider. I think it comes as a surprise sometimes to clients when they see just how wide powers of attorney are, because you say, look, I'm granting this lawyer power of attorney to buy a house, and it's got about 4 pages of stuff they can do. They can open bank accounts, they can deal with the tax authorities, they can register with this, register for that, set up a company. But of course, the reason for that is that in Spain the law is very strict, and if your power of attorney does not specifically say you can do something, then you can't do it.
That's correct. It has to specifically say what you want to do. Otherwise, they do not see a second reading for the power of attorney. It's just what it says, and they are very strict about that. It seems it could seem a little bit scary, to grant so much power to someone to do something on your behalf. But the idea is that you do not have to travel backwards and forwards every time you need to sign some paperwork, because that would be quite expensive every time you have to come to Spain. We always tell our clients that there is no need to be scared about this or worried, because anything that is in the power of attorney can only be done with their previous authorization. lawyers will not do anything without consulting the client and having the written authorization to do this.
But that's a matter of professional obligations,
That's right,
not
yes.
legal obligations. And one of the reasons why it's better to give the power of attorney to the lawyer than it is to your next door neighbour, for example, because legally, once the person has the power of attorney, there is nothing to stop them using all those powers.
You have power of attorney, you can go with the power of attorney to the bank or to any other offices, the government offices or any other places that you need to go to do something on behalf of that person who's granting you power of attorney. Yes. So that why we go back to the same thing. It is very important that you trust the person you're giving power of attorney to.
We've said that the powers tend to be very wide. You don't want them any wider than they need to be. There's no point in giving power to do things that you're just never going to do in a million years.
That's right. That's only logical. It's only the scope of the power will be what it is needed for the, if we're talking about the purchasing of a property purchase, then it's just all the arrangements, all the paperwork that need to be sorted out just for that side.
The other thing you can do to protect yourself is to put in an end date, can't you? You can say, this power of attorney will automatically cease to have any validity on 1st of December 2016.
That's correct, because one thing that we have to explain, that do not come with an expiry date on it or a validity date. It's valid for as long as you wanted it to be valid for, or for as long as you lived. When you sign the power of attorney at the notary's office, you will be given a copy for you to keep. And with that copy, you can go to a notary's office either in Spain or if you are in the UK to the Spanish embassy or consulate and cancel that power of attorney.
And that's again a simple process.
That's right.
And occasionally you may find you no longer have confidence in the person you've given power of attorney to, so that power of attorney is cancelled. And then if somebody uses fraudulently a cancelled power of attorney, they could be in pretty serious trouble.
They could be in serious trouble, that's correct.
Yes. Once you have gone to the notary's office and you've signed the document in front of the notary and the notary's given you a copy for your own use, then that's it as far as you're concerned. There's nothing more required.
There's nothing more required. The notary will keep the original of the power of attorney. You take a copy with you, and the official, obviously, you take an official copy with you, and another official, which is the official copy that the lawyers will use. The lawyer or the person you're granting power of attorney to.
Because whenever the lawyer or the person you're granting the power to wants to use the power of attorney, they have to produce it.
That's right.
So they're going to sign the title for you, say, when you're buying a house. They will go to the notary with the power of attorney and say, here, I am authorised by this person to sign.
That's right. Yes. That's correct, yes. That's the procedure.
Okay, so that's the powers of attorney signed in Spain. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, very cheap.
That's right, yes.
But you just need to be careful that you're not granting too many powers. And in my view, it's always a good idea to put a cancellation date for a power of attorney, but not too soon, because things always take longer than you think. So if you think it's going to take until September, make the power end in December.
For example, yes, that's a good idea.
Yes. So what about the people who can't sign in Spain? Maybe you want to buy a house with your wife, but you've come and your wife's still back in the United States. You have to get the power of attorney then signed back home.
Okay. Then what you need to do is, obviously, as we said before, it's always with the help of your Spanish lawyer. That's if you are back home and you need to sign a power of attorney, the lawyer here can send the document, the power of attorney, completed to your notary.
Yes. Just pause there for a second if you can. Very important point, because the power of attorney you sign will be a Spanish power of attorney.
That's right.
It is no good signing a United States power of attorney or a British power of attorney and saying, here, I've given power of attorney, because the notary or the authorities here just will not accept that.
That's right. It'll have to be a Spanish document, because as we are in Spain, the document will have to be in Spanish. And then we'll talk about the legalization of this document that you...
And so what you would normally expect is for your lawyer to email you a power of attorney. Says, right, I've prepared this power of attorney. Here it is, completely filled in. It's in Spanish and your own language. If you speak English, Spanish and English, 2 columns. and then you will take that to a local notary where you live and say, hey, I want to sign this power of attorney.
That's correct. Sometimes the clients do not know where their nearest notary public is. There is no problem because we can always give them the address of the notary public. We make contact with them as well, and we obviously advise the notary that this person, our client, will go there to sign the power of attorney in their presence, and it's a question of witnessing their signature.
I have to say I'm very pleased and impressed you do that, because I cannot tell you how many Spanish lawyers I have dealt with who have sent clients just a blank document for them to fill in their name and their address and their occupation and all of these other things, and that just doesn't work. So that's great. So filling in the document, making contact with the notary in advance. And that's actually important for several reasons, isn't it? Because some notaries won't do this. Some notaries will say, actually, I don't speak Spanish, and therefore I'm not comfortable about dealing with this power of attorney. Most will say, well, look, I'm here to witness you've signed it. I'm not here to explain it all to you. And so I'm happy to do it even if I don't speak Spanish. So if you are going to try and find your own notary for any reason, you need to make sure that they're happy to sign a power of attorney that's in Spanish and English, as well as just in English.
We normally provide, as you said before, the English translation, but obviously the Spanish version of the document is the valid one. The English is there for their own knowledge of what they're signing.
Now, for almost all countries in the world, not all, the formalities that have to be followed when you're signing a power of attorney outside Spain are those set out in the Hague Convention.
That's right.
And so they will differ a bit from country to country because every country interprets it differently, but basically what do they have to do?
They have to, this is done, the notary public will know where the government office is to send the power of attorney for legalization. It's basically to stamp it with the apostille of the Hague. This is very important because if the power is sent to Spain without this stamp, it's not valid.
Yes.
So it'll have to, the client will have to make sure before sending off the power of attorney that it has the apostille of the Hague. Again, the client doesn't have to do this. It's the notary public. They know what to do, and it's all quite simple for them. They know exactly what procedure to follow.
And so if you are going to sign the document back home, then Manzanares would contact the notary and say, I've got Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they're going to come in, they're going to sign a power of attorney.
That's right.
You would email the power of attorney directly to the notary.
And to the client
as well. And to the client, of course. And then the clients would go in and sign it, and the notary would do everything else. They don't have to worry about all this stuff.
Obviously, the notary, the client will have to arrange a convenient time for them to attend the notary's appointment. And they just go there with their identification, form of identification, like a passport. And basically, we do all the previous arrangements, so that the client just go there at the time that they have been told to go and sign the power of attorney before the notary public.
So basically, it's easy. Sounds complicated, but it's easy.
It sounds complicated because of the legalization that has to be done afterward, but not by the client. It's by the notary public. So
yes. Now, if you are interested, we have samples of powers of attorney and also sample legalization certificates on the website and in our guide, so that you can just see what they look like. They're slightly strange documents, but quite interesting if you're that way inclined.